Waldorf Essentials. Two topics that are kind of weighing on my mind that I'm just going to try to tackle them both today. And I want you, if you have a topic that I haven't tackled, and I've done a lot of videos, so look at those first, but there's a topic I haven't tackled, and you want to hear about it, please just drop me a note and say, hey, will you talk about this? That's how today's came up. We were writing on one of our Facebook groups, and Mom said, you've never tackled this, and I said, you're right, I haven't. Here's my little spiel, but this would be a great Monday video. So that's how we're going to talk about play and temperament. And I'm going to start by saying, of course we know that temperament doesn't really seed itself in a child until definitely after 9. However, most of us have a pretty good idea of sort of where they're going to fall. Now, I have watched changes happen. You know, there's definitely changes that happen in kids when hormones get started. And what I see in those changes are deepening often. For instance, my 16-year-old daughter, who was very sanguine in her early childhood. I just saw a spider on my ceiling. Hope it stays there. Very sanguine in her early childhood. Then had some childhood trauma around age 8, and that made that 9-year change be very tumultuous, and it brought in some melancholy that really wasn't there before. And so her preteen years were more melancholy, sanguine. And now that she's a teenager, and I think this is probably going to stick, she's almost 17, and she's definitely sanguine with a touch of melancholy rather than the other way around. So it does change as they get older. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that there are some changes that happen. But let's address the child that's in front of you right now. So with that, I want you to be careful about pegging other children as, you know, being frustrated at other kids. I think it's really important that when our kids have play dates and stuff, especially if they're non-Waldorf families, if they're Waldorf families, and you're probably talking about temperament a little bit already at your play groups. We do sometimes. We talk about temperament of the kids that are in our co-op. But if you're not, and you're sort of, you know, in a spot where it's not, you don't feel like it's appropriate to talk about that, then just observe the other children around your child, observe how they interact, and I think it's important that if we have children that have, you know, have strengths in, maybe you've got a choleric child. So I'm going to just sort of go through what I see through my kids, because I sort of see all of them. So like with Soraya, granted she's got a little spectrum stuff going on, but really she's very, she's pretty choleric. She kind of has been since birth. I sort of joke that I birthed the child of pure will. She's choleric, and she's got a fair amount of sanguine, so she can generally brush some things off. Sometimes she gets a little, she's got some OCD going on, so she has to struggle with it. But when it comes to play, when she gets upset, usually, or she gets mad at somebody, it's often because they won't do it the way she wants to do it. So there's like oh, well, I'm really mad because she won't play the way I want to play, or she just wants to play over there, or I decided not to play with them because all they wanted to play was dogs, and I don't want to be a dog right now, that kind of thing. And so it's very assertive. And so I have to work with her about softening that. And the way I soften that is not oh, well, you shouldn't do that. I don't do that. I soften that by helping her step back and look at the big picture. And I also look at the children that she was going to play with, and what their temperaments might be, or what's presenting right now. And so I might say, gosh, you know, Susie over there, she just got a new dog. That's why she's playing dogs. You know you love dogs. Are you sure you just don't want to go play dogs with Susie? And then she might go, oh yeah, Susie got a new dog. I wonder what her dog's name is. And then it might go into something else. Then all of a sudden she's playing dogs with Susie. But it's about softening that and helping her to see that her way out doesn't have to be the only way. But sometimes the way to do that is to know a little bit about the situation and know a little bit about what's going on. because I do have some kids that are melancholy. I've often had the coming and pouting off the playground, and it's usually, I'm talking about generally between ages like 5 and 8 is when I'm talking. I'll talk about older kids in a minute too. So the melancholies are just really sad that nobody wants to play with them. And this is always the way it happens. Every time we come to the park, every time, nobody wants to play with me. What is wrong? And so remember that melancholics don't like to be cheered up. So don't cheer up. The hardest part about it, being a choleric mom, is listening to that when you go, oh, are you kidding me? You're just at the park the other day, you're having a great time. It's not an always thing, but I can't say that. Can't say that. I have to go, I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. Do you want to come and sit next to me for a few minutes? And let's see how that, because I don't hop up and leave right away. I don't hop up and go, let's go then, let's go home. I just sort of go, well, why don't you come sit next to me? And then I get into a boring conversation, and then it's much more fun to go and play than it is to sit next to me, because I might ask them something boring. Like, that main lesson that we did today, and they're like, oh, mother, do we have to talk about school right now? But I try to find very loving ways to connect then, because connecting with them is really what they need. They need you to connect with how they're feeling right then. And so that's your cue that when you're at the park, that you're still holding the space. It's not just and it can happen so easy. You get other moms at the park, and you're just chit-chatting, and that's appropriate. But you also need to make sure that you're not too disconnected, because you're still on, Mom. You're still on. You still need to be holding that space. So to be observing what's going on with other kids. The phlegmatic child may just want to sit with you there on the bench until they're really ready to go down that slide, or hop on that swing, or go and have a good time. And so sort of notice that within your kids. Notice what things you're seeing, what things are coming up. A sanguine child is going to make fun with make friends with every kid at the park. That's what happens to Soraya sometimes. When she's in her more sanguine place than choleric place, we'll go to the park for friends with co-op, and she'll make friends with all the people that aren't part of co-op and just have a great time. She'll have fun with kids at co-op too, but man, she's like, oh, we're friends. And she goes and has fun with all of those friends. So very much dependent on how she's feeling that day. And I try to gauge it on the way to the park. I try to think about what it is, what dynamic I'm going to see today. And because she's pretty fair split right now. I'm very interested in how that plays out as she gets older. And so anyways, Allie asks, how do you handle this with a tween? Okay, so Sam is 11. And so he is almost in that tweeny place. And he is phlegmatic melancholy. And there was an instance at the park last year, earlier in the summer, where we have a new friend that started co-op. And Sam had been really good friends with another friend. And so he had a friend at co-op, and then that friend brought a friend from baseball to our co-op. And so then it was 3 boys, and usually there's 4 boys because there's another boy, but he wasn't there that day. And so there was this dynamic of 3. And 3, I'm telling you, is always hard. 2 is good, 4 is good, 6 is good. 3 can be hard. So be very much paying attention to the feelings that are going around with the child when there's like 3 in a dynamic. Just because it's really easy for somebody to feel like third wheel. And or fifth wheel, or whatever you want to say. But it's very easy for that dynamic to happen. And so that doesn't mean you should hover, but you should definitely be listening. You should definitely be listening to what they say. So there was this day, and it was, and the new boy did nothing wrong. But I think he said something like, hey, let's go over here, to the one boy that was his friend from baseball, and didn't include Sam, even though in his mind he meant to include Sam. Sam just like got all, garden eat worms about it. And he came over to me, and I was like, what's wrong? You're never sad. We're at the park. Why are you sad? And then he told me, oh, well, so-and-so, he was calling for this one boy and he didn't call for me. And I don't know if I like the new boy. And then he was just sad. And I said, oh, well, I'm sorry, what happened? And of course he's spinning it because the more melancholy is coming out. He's spinning it that the other boy was unkind. And so when you're in that spot, like the mama bear starts to take over and you're like, what? Somebody was unkind? Huh? Who was mad? Who was mean to you? And so then you have to, and I've done it 1,000 times, gone, wait a minute, who's mad? Or who's mean? And I've gone straight into mama bear place. But really, especially with young kids, you have to step back and go, okay, so what really happened? I see that this is how you saw it happen, but what really happened? So it sort of played through, and he went, because he's full dramatic, he got his lunch and went to the farthest picnic table away to eat all by himself. And pretty soon his friends were like, what are you doing? And so his friend went over there, his friend that had been his friend for a long time. He's like, what's wrong with you, Samuel? And so because I told him, I said, if he asks, you need to say, because you are unkind and I feel left out. You need to say that, because I do believe that that's something that we need to empower our children with, regardless of temperament when they're young. You need to speak your feelings. I am not part of this, like, I can remember being bullied in school, feeling like I was left out, all of those things. And all of them were because I didn't open my mouth. And so think back on that. You need to teach your child how to use I feel statements. And that's part of, nonviolent communication, but it's something that needs to happen from the beginning. And when we are homeschooling them, often they're not in as many social settings every single day to really catch that. So it's really important that, and especially if they're not in a homeschool setting, if you're watching this and you have a child that goes to school, these are things that are really important that you need to talk about. You need to use I feel statements. When this happened, I felt this. I felt left out. And give the other child then the opportunity to say, oh my gosh, that's not what I meant, because that's exactly what happened in this situation. So Sam was being all eat worms with his lunch by himself off in the corner in the park. Like, I go, can you be any more dramatic? We're in a park full of kids and you're the farthest picnic table away. But I just sort of, because the melancholy doesn't want to be cheered up, remember? So he was in a very melancholy place. So I hugged him, loved him, said, I'm really sorry that you're feeling this way today. I am in charge of this activity here, so I can't just pick up and leave. So I'm going to ask that you either stay by me if you feel more comfortable with that. Go sit next to your sister, because Ellie was there that day. Or just try to go and play with somebody else. You're the biggest kid here, but just try. So he goes off and eats his lunch in the corner. And then his friends were like, dude, what are you doing? And it didn't take long for that to come around. So then, as the co-leader of co-op, when we get ready for our closing circle, I just give a little reminder, hey, everybody, remember when we come to the park, it's not a personal play date. And we actually have that written in our co-op guidelines. So all the moms are expected to talk to their kids about that. And in this case, it wasn't that the mom didn't talk. It was just that Sam misunderstood what was going on. And so I just said, so remember that when we come to the park, we play with everybody and we're kind to everybody. And by then it had already started to work itself out. Now, if you have a child that's in a situation where it was definitely malicious and it was this kid is mean, and how do you work within that? And so in that situation, you definitely have to, if you don't know that other child well enough, but you know the mom, talk to the mom and say, I think something might be going on. And I've done this before. Play dumb. I think something might be going on. Is he mad at my child? Did my child do something? So I always go to did something happen? Did one of my children do something to make your child upset? And then the mom's like, if she's a present mom, she's like, I don't know. Let's go check that out. But you may not be in that situation. I've definitely been in the situation where it's like, we've been at a park situation and the other mom's completely oblivious, doesn't give a ding. She's there at the park so that she can check out. Have been there. And in that case, I bring my child close to me and I say, listen, I'm really sorry. This child is not in a good place today. We can go do something else. Do you want me to push you on the swing? Come on, let's go. And so often I'll try to insert myself to help, or we might go for a walk around the park just to kind of shake off some feelings and talk about something else while we're on the walk, because then it sort of starts to get them going on something else. Often, if we walk around the park and then come back, they're ready to go climb again and ready to, go play. And it just breaks that negative space that's there. So that just requires you to be, aware when you're at the park. If you've got a play date at your house, how do you deal with it? So if I've got children at my house and they maybe are not, usually I know the moms pretty well that have kids at our house. And so I might say, hey, let's not use those words. And we had a birthday party here, and there are some words that we aren't okay with in our house. And my husband is listening to some bigger boys play video games, and these words start coming out, and my husband says, hey guys, we don't talk like that here. And he just says it. And the boys were like, oh, okay. And that was it. It was stepping in, holding the space, and part of holding the space is sometimes having to step in and say, that's not okay. And you can do it in a way that's not embarrassing your child. You can do it in a way that's not poking fun at the child that's being mean. You have to sort of take off and detach a little bit from how you're feeling about, oh no, my child's being hurt, and make sure you see the big picture. And if there's another child in the mix that's just malicious, then guess what? Separate. I have done that too. I've gone, you know what? It's time for us to go home. This isn't working well. We've had friends when my big kids were growing up. And this happens. There are sometimes just kids that do not bring out the best in your kids, and your kids don't bring out the best in their kids. And it's okay. We don't all have to get along. It is okay that we don't all get along all the time. And I tell my kids that all the time. It is okay that you don't like that person right now. I am sure they have redeeming qualities. And I assure my children whenever they want to go into a tirade about being upset about somebody else, that God loves them too. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. I know that they made you really mad and that they made fun of you, and that's not okay, but I'm sure. So, like with my teenager, she's had some situations lately at church. So frustrating. She is extremely mature for her age. And so I think to a lot of kids that are her age and younger, she's the oldest girl at church right now. All of her friends have gone off to college, and so she's feeling a little bit alone. And so there are some younger girls there that are, in the 13, 14 kind of catty place. And Eleanor is just over it. She's like, I don't understand. Plus, we didn't do the public school thing, so she doesn't do the whole catty stuff at all. She's just like, what you see is what you get. If you have something to say to me, come say it. Which is how I've raised them. Being very forthright. It helped Terry out on his mission he was very forthright. When somebody irritated him, he didn't go behind their back. He was like, you make me mad. Let's talk about this. And Ellie does the same thing. She's generally like, listen, I don't have time for this. And that's because like I said, I remember that upset as a kid. And I don't want to play fourth grade politics ever. And especially not when they're older, when they should know better, and they should know not to talk to each other that way, and they should know to not be mean and catty and bullying. And so, she came home last week, and she was just where she's at now in her life. She just gets mad, and the melancholy sort of is tempered by the sanguine a little bit, but she's mad, and the sanguine allows it to blow off pretty fast. But she was mad because these kids she said, I got to go to the bathroom during seminary, and I came back, and they're all staring at me and laughing. And I was like, who does that? She said, I don't know, but I am so over it. I am so over these kids. And so I don't make her. So she goes to seminary because she wants to. Because the first thing I said was, then the mama bear goes, well, would you like me to find out about home study seminary? She's like, no, I want to go. She loves the teacher. I want to go. I'm just over these kids. And so I support her continually in talking about how do we navigate these things. I have helped all of them. So she's child number 3. I've helped all of them navigate things. Jacob, my one that went to public high school in 10th grade, he would message me and be like, why are people so mean? I don't understand. I thought this kid was my friend. And then the other day he punches me in the face. I was like, I don't understand either. But let's talk about that. Do you know anything about him? What's his home life like? And then when we're deconstructing it, then he can step away from the I hate this person to the I have compassion for this person. And that's really what we want. We want to raise children that are compassionate towards one another. And so it's super helpful to be able to talk them out of that space that they're in and look at the bigger picture. Look at the whole down to the parts. Always. We're always looking at the big picture and then deconstructing it down. It's super helpful, especially as they're teenagers and they're getting older and closer to adulthood. But I remember the day he called me. It's like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I've been here for 4 months, and this kid that I thought was my friend just punched me in the face today. And I just started laughing. I said, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about that. So I have a little person here that's just woken up this morning. Give me hugs, and then please go get into bed with Daddy, okay? Okay. Oh, you want to stay here? Okay. So that's it for the kids and temperaments. If you have more questions about that, please, please, please ask. Happy to, refine, answer some questions, talk you through how to work with something. I was going to say I'm not the expert. I am a pretty good expert when it comes to working with that, but I don't know everything. I definitely take a lot of things to prayer and pondering before I answer. So if you have a specific situation, please go ahead and feel free, you can ask it. Okay, the next thing, how to get out of management mom mode. Lists on the internet just get crazy. And I want to remind everybody, and this is where I see so many moms in management mode. You get in a management place for a couple of reasons. Maybe there's a death, or maybe you just had a baby. I get it. But guess what? This right here is more important than all of that. Every day, all the time. So, if you are on your phone, being a keyboard warrior, and you have a child that needs you, and you are ignoring that child to be the keyboard warrior, stop. It doesn't matter who is being racist or cultural appropriationist, or who you think you need to fix, or who you're mad at because of this and X, Y, and Z. Yes, those are horrible things that people do to one another. Step away and remember that your child and your children and your commitment to them and being at home is more important than anything you need to put on Facebook. Period. End of discussion. The best way to get out of management mom mode, if you're in it for that reason, because what happens is we get under stress. And then when we're under stress, we allow the things that happen on Facebook to affect us more. And so as you're under stress and you're making it worse, remember that nobody learns from a situation by screaming at them. So ask yourself always, is this response that I'm giving going to be a helpful one? If it's not going to be helpful and it's just showing your anger, remember that it shows way more about you than it does about the person you're yelling at. So how do you educate? You have to step back to educate people when you're frustrated at them. Step back to educate them. Don't accuse. Step back. Do just like what I tell people to do with their kids. I feel this. When you said that, it hurt my feelings, and I feel this. Not, you're so wrong, you're horrible, I can't believe you would think that. Step away. And if at any point during the conflict you are neglecting your children, stop. Nothing that anybody says on the internet really and truly affects your day-to-day life. Nothing. I know that. There have been times, I look back on this year, there have been times that I have gotten caught up in things myself. Sometimes I've been pulled into things and I go, whew, that was crazy. I need to not do that again. Not necessarily because I've been like the keyboard warrior trying to correct people, but because I've been watching it go down in flames. And I watch the anger and I watch people get so frustrated. So if you are all pulled up into different fights on the internet, I love you.
I love you too.
Then please remember that these little people are why you're at home. These people are why you're here doing what you're doing. These people are why you're hopefully planning your lessons, making good food, having a good time, spending time outside, having fun with them, playing games with them, all of those things. That's why you're doing it. So then if you're in management mom mode for some other reason, like maybe the internet's not pissing you off, because I have just learned to just go, I don't have time for that. I'm just going to keep on scrolling. I want to say something, I'm going to keep on scrolling. If you are in management mode for other reasons, maybe you have had a lot of financial strife lately. There's a lot of people out there that are having financial strife right now, trust me, a lot. I'm in the same boat as a lot of other people. Or maybe your marriage is struggling, and I am so sorry if that's the case. I am working with so many families right now who really have struggling marriages. If you are in management mom play mode because, you're slipping. There we go. It's just getting really big. If you're in management mom mode because you have other things going on in your life, like horrible things, facing divorce, maybe you've got parents that you're caring for, you really have to stop and do this more. Hug more, kiss more, look at your babies, stop and take a break and have a good time. And ask yourself, when was the last time I laughed? If you can't remember the last time you laughed, then it's time to laugh today. Find something silly and funny. If you need some comic relief, watch old I Love Lucy on YouTube. Eleanor started a job at See's Candy. Here, I can't see the camera, silly girl. Eleanor started a job at See's Candy this week, and so we had to watch some I Love Lucy just to get in the mood of it. Remember, I Love Lucy was funny, wasn't it? Especially the chocolate one, because she's working at See's Candy. And yesterday she came home, she's like, they taught us how to move the chocolate with the tissue paper, and I started laughing. I said, just made me think of Lucy. Anyway, so find things that are funny and have a good time and love and hug your children. Do fun things with them. Fun things don't have to cost any money. Hey, sweetie pie, I can't see. There we go. Fun things don't have to cost any money. So go for a walk. Go on a nature walk. Find, things that are changes in the season. Go and examine those things. Just go and do something that gets you out of that space. And once you feel the good, once you feel yourself in the flow, hold on to it. And you don't hold on to it the way you hold on. If you hold on to sand in your hand, you hold on to it tight, it just falls out. Same with water. So you got to cup your hands. Service and loving yourself. Sometimes the service you need to do is for yourself. Loving yourself and loving others is how you keep that going. And, your hair is in my face, silly girl. That's how you keep it going, to stay out of that management place. Yeah, Disneyland. Yeah, Disneyland. I love you.
And did my handworks where you did that?
Yes, I did get your handwork all ready to go, so you can work on it in the car.
In there.
No, it's over there on the table. Do you want to go see it? So, I'm going to sign off now. I just want to remind you, get out of management mode. Have a good time with your people. Remind yourself why you're at home with them. And if you need a reminder and you're having a hard time, curl up with your little ones at night.
Me.
Like you, yes, like you. If you are family bedding and it's a stress and a struggle, then maybe something needs to change. Maybe you need to go and scooch away after they go to sleep and snuggle up on the couch where you have alone space for a little bit. Don't neglect yourself. And, if you're in management mode and you're there because you're a single mom and you don't have any time to yourself, I get it. I remember being there.
Sick?
Oh, and when you were sick, we snuggled a lot, didn't we? But find ways to get out of that space. And if you need some tips, just send me a message. I'm happy to help. Being in management mode is not any fun. And, it's hard on you. It's hard on your kids. It's hard on your partner. So just really work to find the joy and get off the internet. If it makes you mad, delete Facebook from your phone and only be on it when you're, in front of the computer, or find ways to really not think about what's going on in the world. I do. And that doesn't mean I bury my head in the sand, because I still do some activism work. But I definitely do not live on what happens on Facebook, because you know what? Somebody's going to tell me. Somebody is going to think I need to know and inform me anyway, so I don't need to go be part of that argument. Anyway, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you enjoy your kids today and all week long and forever and always. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be strife. There's going to be days when you want to pull your hair out and run away.
Disneyland.
It helps to yes, it's Disneyland. It helps to remember why you're doing this, and remember we have some great videos if you need some help getting unstuck from some places, and I'm here to help. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Yeah. We're gonna go have a magical day. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.